Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 63 of the Not Joanna Eggs podcast. This week, we are reviewing the 1983 Canadian animated film Rock and Rule with friend of the show, Angus Beer. He told us to check this one out, and we highly recommend that you watch it. If you want to find his Twitter, he is found at Angus_Beer. You can also find his YouTube account by searching for Angus Beer. He's got a great devlog going on right now for a game he's working on called Sunset Witch that we would highly recommend that you check out. And hope you guys like this one. Take care. Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Not Joanna Eggs podcast. I'm Tracy.
I'm Robbie, and this week we have a guest.
Bart Simpson.
One of our favorite
Just
guests,
like
that lovable rapscallion Bart Simpson. Or Bort Sampson if you're from, Eastern Europe. Come along, Bort.
Are you talking to me?
Please state your name for the record, sir.
I'm Angus Beer. I'm an animator, artist, game maker, all that good stuff. So
hell yeah, you are. I've been looking at your Twitter feed constantly because you keep putting the video game that you're working on, all the updates. It looks adorable and it looks very, very fun. So I'm super excited. Are you going to end up putting it online to be able to play it later, or is this for a class?
So basically, this is a game that I'm hoping to be my first commercial release. It's a game called Sunset Witch. Basically, it's going to be a game I'm putting up on itch.io. And I'm hoping to finish it by the end of summer. So, cool. It's all going good.
Is it a collaboration with any other people that you work with online too, or is it solo?
There is my friend who I know locally, and he's doing the music, but pretty much all by myself, apart from that, apart from the music.
Damn girl, get it.
I think
that's cool.
Basically, I'm in a situation where it feels like at college I'm not really doing much, so I just figure, might as well do...
Dude, that's everybody in college.
I might as well do
unless
shit,
you're doing pre-med.
That's
fair.
But that was going well.
For you.
Yeah, honestly, I was the exact same way where I'm like, well, I think I need to fill up my free time with a lot of projects and working and stuff, because otherwise I'm like, I'm only in class for 4 hours. What else do I do?
Pretty much.
But yeah, that's fair.
And I was just lazy as fuck and played a lot of video games.
That's
you.
I mean, honestly, there's many different ways you can approach college.
Yeah.
I just got bored really, really easily. So
you can, do that thing where you actually work on your classes, but
Oh no, I didn't do that. I just, I just spent time elsewhere. I just went thrifting mostly. So that's fine.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and talk about the movie that we're reviewing. So this is the second time we've had Angus on, and he gave us another super interesting movie this time, and it's called Rock and Rule. Originally came out in, I think, 1983. Is that correct?
83. Yep.
Yeah, I was super impressed by because granted I had never heard anything about this movie before, but then once I gradually started to watch it, I'm like, this is really engrossing. Robbie or Angus, would either of you like to give them the story, just a brief overview of what it is? Because there's lots of scenes that we'll break down later, but just
there's
random,
just a lot.
There really is. It's a fairly packed movie for an hour and 18 minutes.
So
roughly.
gay vampire wannabe mom
Yes.
wants to summon a demon from another dimension.
Yeah, that's it.
And in order to do that, he needs an attractive woman named
Dog Lady.
Isn't it Donna or something?
No. It's
her name's
Angel.
Angel.
Yeah.
Her name's Angel, but she looks like a dog lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because
which is not meant to say, that doesn't mean she's an ugly woman. She just happens to have dog-like features.
Pretty much.
Well, because it's technically post-apocalyptic Earth. All humans have died, and people and animals like dogs have evolved into people like dogs. So it's kind of furries, but not furries.
It's kind of furries. It's pretty close to furries.
It's the 80s version of furries.
It's kind of a lazy version of furries. They're not committing to it like Zootopia did, but
I don't know. It's one of those cases. I think they wanted to draw people, but they couldn't be asked to draw noses properly, so they just.
And that's super obvious with Omar's design, because Omar just if he was a human, he would have the biggest nose I've ever seen in my life.
Just a
worse than Schmendrake in The Last Unicorn, and that's saying something.
Oh yeah. Him.
Well, and also, I was talking with someone about it on Mastodon, sort of briefly, and their assessment of it is what if we made a Ralph Bakshi movie, but without his sort of weird hang-ups?
Pretty much.
Yeah, without like the tendencies toward racism.
Yeah, the weird racism that he feels and his odd brand of cynicism. What if he just did that? And it's pretty obvious. Like, I think that Mock is the most obvious, like, sort of Bakshian character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair. But he's also the foppish villain, which is my favorite trope, as we've mentioned before. I was like, as soon as he came on screen, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, no, me too. I was like, all right.
I was like, oh, yes, this will make it like, especially knowing that the voice actors that they were trying to get for him include Tim Curry, David Bowie, and like 2 other people.
Oh,
and
really?
Like, but they couldn't afford it because of the budget, which is why they got the voice actor, Don Franks, who was also the voice of Dr. Claw on Inspector Gadget.
Oh, okay.
So if he sounds familiar, that's why, because his voice is, oh God, it's so good.
It is good voice.
It's funny that David Bowie is one of the voice actors, because in my notes, what did I say? Mock is like gay demon David Bowie.
So David Bowie.
I mean, yeah.
Kind of, a little bit.
Except
he's got a lot more going on in the lip area.
Yeah, he has.
I will say, but
for all the nose that Omar has, Mock has just lip.
Yeah, just tenfold. I also like that apparently his name was supposed to be Mock Swagger, you know, like making fun of Mick Jagger. Hence why he kind of looks like him.
Okay.
But the thing is that they would have gotten sued if they did that, so they had to shorten it to Mock. Because Mick Jagger's people reached out to them, and they're just like, yeah, you can't do that. So
you can't do that.
I mean, they would not have had a leg to stand on if they called him Mick Swagger. Like, come on.
Yeah, no, not quite. But in retrospect, you totally see it.
Oh yeah, no.
But
now that you
even though Mock isn't English, he's just old and intimidating. So
pretty much
old and queenish.
Yeah. Oh God, he's such a queen. I love it so much.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So the overall story is that essentially Mock is attempting. He's like this giant like superstar musician.
Yeah, he's like a music
whatever.
megastar of some kind.
Yeah, it oddly reminded me a bit of Interstellar 555, but just much more condensed because they don't go into space. They just stay on like Earth, basically. They just go between.
Actually, you're right. It is kind of like a weirdly similar plot.
Kind of. It's just much more reduced, though, because I think within Interstellar 555, the stakes were much higher.
Yeah, it was also like, it turns out that it's literally just like the end of this much longer running mess.
That's very true.
Yeah.
But
watch
yeah.
That movie again.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Actually, we should do that one again.
At some point.
No, we did that. That was like our 6th episode the first time.
Yeah, we did that
back when we were still Animation Station. But I would like to revisit that again sometime if we could, especially just because it's just a good movie. But no, so basically, Mock is trying to raise this demon out of basically the center of the earth or hell, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump over here.
No, go right ahead.
Okay, well, so one of the things that bugged me about this, and this is just like a simple writing thing.
Yeah.
So early on, in the beginning of the movie, it has this whole thing. Mock is trying to summon a being from another dimension. That's the almost exact wording it uses. Somewhere towards the middle of the film, we say demon. Somewhere later, we say being from another dimension again. And it gets there at the end, obviously, and that is a demon.
I think it's just an inconsistency issue, probably.
Yeah, I just don't know what. It was probably a matter of like.
Well, they didn't have a script written out for it. They kind of just went with it. Well, no, that's the thing because so here's the thing because apparently since this was made by the Canadian animation studio Nelvana, which I think is best known for making, I want to say Rupert the Bear and oh God, what else did they do? Did they do Franklin? I don't remember.
Maybe there was definitely something else that name is familiar for me.
I kind of want to check. I think they might have been behind Inspector Gadget too. But so what it was is that since this was made using some almost entirely by students of animation that had just graduated because it was a brand new animation studio at the time that they had hired like apparently about 100 students directly out of graduating. So they're just like, hey guys, use all of your technical know-how that you got from these classes to do it because, Canada's amazing at animation. They always will be. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was the whole thing with the plot is that they didn't necessarily have it written out and it's kind of obvious. But,
yeah. Well,
I got that impression.
It's not super difficult to follow because the story itself is fairly simple enough.
Well, yeah. Especially because, I mean, it's not like they're trying to do something like massively spanning. It's just that it's because it wasn't a written script before it came, like they started working on it. it's
sure.
slightly less consistent and probably and a little less coherent.
I thought this plot, I don't know, at times it really does feel like kind of just like, I mean, it feels like a Disney film at times, but then at other points, it really doesn't. Like, really, it's like, oh, let's put a bit of edge in here. Let's put in a dance scene.
Yeah, there's definitely...
the club scene.
Oh, we'll get into the clubbing
We'll get into that, but, you know.
We definitely need to talk about the clubbing scene. BT Dubs just looked up Nelvana. They animated so many kids shows.
Yeah, I think I just saw Tintin, Babar. Sorry, Babar.
Babar, God damn it. The Berenstain Bears, because we live in the alternate timeline. Franklin, you were right. Little Bear, The Magic School Bus, Redwall.
So essentially anything that Nick Jr. had on their programming back in the mid-90s. Like, this is like almost in order, actually, because I almost memorized that scheme whenever I was staying home, like, sick. And I start. Yeah, I don't know. I like watching Nickelodeon, but no, like they happen to have, you know, like how they have the blocking schedule that they have for whatever children's shows they're playing that morning, and it would be like Blue's Clues, then Little Bear, then Franklin, then, you know, Rupert or some shit. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, honestly, this is pretty damn close.
Yeah.
I forgot that there was a Never-Ending Story TV show.
There was.
Oh God.
Oh, it was predictably terrible.
Well, like just as bad as the third one.
I don't remember the third one. I don't think I watched that.
Wasn't Jack Black in that one? Or was
He
it the second
was. He
one?
was. I think he was one of the bullies.
What?
Yeah.
He was one of the bullies. Robbie, look this shit up later. It's pretty crazy.
All right, well, I know what my evening's going to be. It's going to be getting high and a bunch of weird movies.
Yeah.
There you go. Please watch Return to Oz. You won't regret it.
Okay.
I feel like I will.
I mean, you will, but it'll be worth it. But yeah, okay, so let's start breaking down the characters, because they're kind of like the heart of the story, because the story itself is pretty loose. Like, and here's the thing. I think we can all collectively agree Omar is the worst and no one likes him.
He is.
Is that accurate?
Such a shit.
He is.
He's just such a toolbox. Like, he just reminds me of like the friend that's there that no one actually likes.
Yeah.
But he's just there.
It's like when you do
like,
Hold on, I'm sorry. I have to pause one more time because this is actually relevant to our history here, Tracy.
Oh,
Nelvana
God.
also established original series with characters in its roster. Clone High.
What?
Yes.
Wait, did they produce it? I thought it was made by Teletoon.
Teletoon. Hold on.
Let me see franchises. Nelvana programs. Did they really make Clone High? Hold on. Sorry, I'm going through their thing. This is super important.
It's one of the production companies that's involved.
Oh, they were also behind the Donkey Kong Country animated series.
Oh no.
Yeah,
and Roly Poly Oly. Jesus Christ, they had their dick in everything.
I was politely skipping over.
What do you have against Roly Poly Oly? How dare you?
Donkey Kong. I was politely rolling over Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Oh, they were also behind Brace Face, where they have a breast inflation episode. That was a good time.
I did love Brace Face, though.
It was all right. It was the best thing that Alicia Silverstone's ever done, except, of course, for Batman and Robin. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to the story.
Right,
I believe Robbie.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Sorry, I just had to bring up Clone High.
But yeah, so the characters themselves, like Omar is just so like not likable.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, honestly, I think that if anything, Dizzy would have made a much better protagonist, because he actually gets shit done and clearly cares about Angel enough to actually bother going to look for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, whereas like I think I think that Omar is like, we're trying to do this kind of like lovable jerk character,
but he's lovable.
Never lovable because he never does anything good.
No.
He's just kind of a jerk ass who doesn't want to work for it. He just wants the fame. Like, honestly, he kind of reminds me of JP from Redline. Gotta be honest. Because Angel wants to put in the work and she's likable. And I'm sorry to keep dredging up Redline again, but I don't know.
It's inescapable for us at this point.
I know. It's going to be that monkey on my back for the rest of my life until I die. And then Redline will be there at my funeral because I can't protest it anymore. But
somehow I will bring them to the funeral.
For sure. But like, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like Omar's definitely the weakest character, because like Angel, I thought she was interesting.
She is. She's a really cool character.
Yeah, she's great. And like she actually has like some panache to her, and she's not a pushover. She keeps like fighting with Omar about trying to play the songs, because clearly like they don't like his songs, which is why they kind of get booed off. Like if it wasn't for Angel, they probably would have not succeeded at all.
Yeah.
Like, because granted, the whole intro of the movie is that Mock, he's trying to get his doomsday device thing set up so that he can bring the demon down from the pits of hell, whatever it is. So he keeps trying to go to different places, trying to find the voice, not like the TV show, but very similar.
I mean, yeah, it's a little like The Voice.
Kind of, sort of, just for more nefarious purposes.
Pretty much.
It's evil Simon Cowell.
I mean, that's not that different, Robbie.
I know. I know.
But yeah, so Mock ends up going to this club in ohmTown, which I guess is, like their version of doing like a hometown,
It's
which
like
is LA or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it seems I don't know. It seems he's at like a weird, like slummy club.
Yeah, called Mylar's, who I personally really like the character of Mylar. He's definitely very sleazy, but I liked him.
I liked Mylar, but that's because I agreed with him about the music.
I think there should have been more screen time with him. I just like the way he's like, fabuloso. Yeah. Are we talking about the right person?
Yeah, he's definitely like...
In any other movie, he would be a used car salesman.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes. He's like the guy that the Muppets sell their trade in their car to in the Muppet movie.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah. They're playing at the club, and then Mock is there in the shadows as per the usual. And I'm really glad that they waited to kind of show him. But once he makes his entrance, it's a damn good entrance.
It is.
And I'm glad that they
I
did
love that entrance.
Like, it was very calculated, and I'm glad that they waited.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely like the perfect bombastic Mock entrance that he wants.
Yeah.
It's everything I wanted. It's how I imagine Tim Curry introduces himself at dinner parties, and I'm going to continue to think that.
No, yeah, in retrospect, I really wish Tim Curry had done that voice, because I think that
it would
have been so good. I mean, he would have been chewing the scenery left and right, but...
I still think Don Franks did a really good job, though.
Oh, no, it's not to denigrate Don Franks' job.
No, I know.
I just think Tim Curry would have been such a delight.
Yeah.
That's true. If they could have gotten David Bowie to do it as well, I thought that would have been pretty neat. But I don't think that he could get angry enough to do it, but I'm basing that off of absolutely nothing, because the only other acting job I've ever seen him in was Labyrinth, which to my knowledge is the only other one that he's been in, but I'm not 100% sure. But except for that one SpongeBob episode, Atlantis Square Pantis, but
he does I don't think he actually does I don't think he ever did acting. I think he did weird cameo roles as himself.
That's true. Plus I think he was having his Nazi phase during that. Do you remember that?
Say what?
I think he might have been having his Nazi phase during that time, and also they couldn't afford him. So he had a weird fascist thing back in the mid '80s. So they were probably trying to distance themselves from that too. You can look it up; it's a little weird, but I mean, he got over it eventually. He's kind of a problematic fave of mine, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, so they're at the club, and then Mock hears Angel singing, and she happens to have a voice that can get to the exact frequency that he needs. So, of course, he sends one of his Goonies over to give her a card inviting them while she and Omar are at makeout point, porking in the back of his car.
Oh my god, that was so... I died at that scene.
It was pretty great.
First of all, the guy just comes up and rips, apparently, a cloth
on the top of the car.
From the car.
Yeah, it was off of the convertible or whatever it was, how they have a cloth top on top of the car.
Yeah, except it was just one square of it.
Yeah.
Maybe they had that little plastic window thing that covers it up, because
I have no idea. It was just so funny. But then, as soon as he gives him the business card, Omar's not into it, and Angel's like, "No, we're now definitely porking."
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I thought was a little gross, because I'm like, Angel, you can do better. But...
I know.
Also, the skylight's still open. Somebody could just come and watch. No.
I know this is supposed to be LA, but it could rain eventually.
I thought it was raining.
It was the 80s. Rain happened.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, was it raining when they were there?
I think it was,
in that scene.
Yeah, because it was raining on the window.
Listen,
right.
Angel was really excited.
Gross.
And Angel gets what she wants.
I'm glad that they were fully clothed during it.
Yeah.
Also a weird choice.
I mean, honestly, I would have taken that over the ladder.
I mean, yes, I'm not saying I wanted them to be naked.
I think you are, Robbie. I think you're doubting their commitment to each other. I think you're clothes shaming them.
I am everything shaming Omar.
That's fair. He deserves it.
Exactly.
Here, someone else take over the thing. I think I've been talking too much.
So what, we're summarizing the film and that?
Yeah, you want to continue the plot from here?
Okay, so basically, from this point, what happens? What actually happens? There's a lot that happens. Yeah, they go to Mock's house, and they kind of, what's his name? Omar doesn't really want to, take the offer, because he's all like, I use your CDs as a trash can or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, as a divider for his gerbil's cage or something. And I'm just like, we get it, Omar. You're not a virgin.
We get it. You're edgy.
Anyway, so what's her face? Angel gets taken by Mock to be in, his next big band thing or whatever. I don't know. It's one of those things where like things happen, but not really at the same time.
They give him like what kind of looks like that map from Treasure Planet, but it's just like it just keeps playing holograms of rock music.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, is that all
that's
it
right.
takes
Yeah,
to
they
distract
trip him
him?
out.
God, this guy sucks.
Well, it put both him and Stretch,
yeah,
who's essentially Shaggy.
He really is.
Yeah, we really needed a Scooby in this picture.
Yeah, and I think
Just
that he's
to,
there because I really like Dizzy because I've told Robbie this before. I don't know if he agrees with it, but I kind of think that our personalities fused together would pretty much be Dizzy.
Is that the
Maybe?
Is that like
I
the
could see
drummer?
that.
Or am I mixing
Yeah,
up?
that's the drummer with the glasses and the man bun, I think. I hope it's not a man bun, but whatever. But no, I mean, I really liked his character. I'd just be like, man, in any other world, I would probably end up dating Dizzy at some point.
Yeah. Again, I think it is one of those things. A lot of the other characters needed more screen time. I think we got too much screen time of like Omar, but he's just not as interesting, really.
Yeah, he doesn't really warrant that kind of screen time because his.
No.
The whole thing is that the only one who really starts instigating the whole search for Angel is
him.
But it's Dizzy and to a lesser extent Stretch, but because like Omar is like he just seems like he couldn't be bothered, but it's like what the fuck else are you doing?
What? It also like
she's supposed to be your girlfriend.
Like,
why are you being such a shithead?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I felt like so they basically get like hypnotized. Stretch and Omar do, and then he kidnaps Angel and converts his house into a flying air balloon,
which can happen. Apparently.
I mean, it's
Robbie. It was like the 50th anniversary of the Hindenburg. They got to call it back in some way.
All right.
It's absolutely the most flamboyant mode of transportation he could have chosen.
Would you have expected any less, though?
Yeah, no, I'm saying it fits his character. I'm also saying it's a fucking hot air balloon.
Yeah.
It's
we
gonna take a
know how
while.
this goes.
It's gonna take a while for them to get over to New York too, which they call Nuke York, I think.
For some reason.
As an NUK, NUKE. Or I'm just like, okay, guys, we get it. It's the apocalypse, whatever.
Yeah.
I do love that you're in this apocalyptic world, but things that still exist: New York, Radio City Music Hall.
Yeah.
No, Carnegie Hall, but they call it Carnegie Hall, as in carnage.
Yeah, but Radio City Music also exists because in one of the shots in New York, you see the big sign that says Radio City.
Huh, fair enough.
I just clicked it. I somehow noticed that of all
That's
things.
fair. I just thought it was interesting that, a Canadian team would do that. Like, but granted, I don't know of many like famous places in Canada, like for music venues and stuff. Canada.
Yeah. Just to piss off Canadian listeners.
Just guys.
Oh, but so then, like, they get shoved down the road to Mock's house because, of course, he lives on a hill. Of course he
Naturally.
does.
I mean, in, like, one of the most phallic castles I've ever seen, which I am fine with,
Yeah, again,
but it seemed a bit extra. That's all I'm going to say.
I just think that Mock is overall extra. I
mean,
don't think I wrote that, but I definitely thought it many times.
I mean, I will say this. I want his wig collection.
Yeah, he's got a lot of wigs.
We find out.
He's got some quality wigs. I'm going to go ahead and say it.
So they almost get arrested, the boys do, and then they steal a cop car. And I don't know.
In like the Roger Rabbit way where it's like, you don't, you do, you do, I don't. Like that thing.
Well, and then he just like runs and takes the car.
And then they just drive 3 days straight.
Yeah. The cop didn't even like give a shit. He was just kind of like acknowledged.
He was just a little angry.
He was just a bit pissed off.
He may as well have like done the thing where like he throws his hat. It's like, you darn kids.
Yeah.
I'm really I was dissatisfied with the traveling music. It started playing and it sounded like it was going to be AC/DC and I knew it wasn't going to be. And I just wish it was.
Yeah.
It would have made, like a little more of the music that I enjoyed.
Well, they only had so many bands that they could get to be affiliated within the movie
Hmm.
itself. I mean, because like
it's just
clearly,
unfortunate
like,
for me if they were not bands I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mind it. I don't mind Cheap Trick. I don't really care for Debbie Harry that much, but like the fact that they had Earth, Wind, and Fire in it, I was like, I could get behind this. But like, they clearly just asked for permission for the song, like, because it's a pre-recorded song called "Dance, Dance, Dance," and that's the real name of the song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, because I played it later afterwards, because I'm like, I really like this music. So.
Yeah, no. Earth, Wind, and Fire is the only band I have listened to in that slew. I definitely am not a fan of Cheap Trick, but, you know.
The thing is, like, with the music, I know absolutely nothing about sort of music culture or music in general, but, like, I really like the songs they had.
Some are stronger than others.
Yeah, mostly, like, Angel's songs, like, from the near the beginning and near the end.
Yeah.
Hers were really good.
What a shock that hers are way better than Omar's.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because she put work into it, and she's not just screaming and like caressing her chest, talking about how great she is.
I'm just wondering myself, like, why do they put them in the band? It's like, you know, when you have a school project and it's, well, actually, you've already said that, didn't you? No, did you?
No, but I think I know what you're talking about, like where you have like a group project at school.
Yeah, when you have
and one person does everything,
while the other guy just like slacks off and complains about everything.
Omar is definitely the guy who just, like, sits there and complains.
Yeah.
He's that fucking guy.
Oh, God,
He sits there, complains, and does absolutely nothing to remedy the situation. Ergo, don't be Omar. Omar sucks.
Yep.
And it's only in the end he ever does anything, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so let's talk about the whole, so they're going to New York to find Angel, and her basically being imprisoned, and him trying to not really brainwash her, but just like kind of like manipulate her and order her around into doing it, like into singing.
Yeah.
And so they get to New York, and he's keeping her in some room with
I think
so.
Like a kind of well-appointed prison cell, I guess.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
She gets like a couch, sort of.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Well, yeah, she has to have the couch because that's the important device.
It sure looks like a casting couch, but we'll leave that alone because this is the era of Me Too, and I don't want to make that joke right now.
Yeah, let's not. So when she's in there, someone just appears from the fucking vent.
Yes. Oh my God, Cindy, your girl, Cindy.
I actually love.
Yeah.
Partially because she's just a fucking tank.
Yep, she is built.
And she's the sister of the three henchmen of Mock.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just called the henchmen the Beagle Boys because they kind of reminded me of those characters from DuckTales.
They are kind of the Beagle Boys, and for some reason, all of them have roller skates on.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's all Mock, though. And also, this was 1983, so the roller skate craze was still kind of going. So
sure.
It really hit its apex in, like, the late 70s, and they're just still having, like, that bleed over.
Yeah.
I mean, it wheezed into the 90s.
It's still going on now. I still see people rollerblading on Lakeshore Drive. So. Oh,
I've never seen a person rollerblading in the last probably 10 years.
What about that guy that has those 6 huskies in our neighborhood? Or does he run? I forget. Do you know that guy?
Him jogging.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if he ever roller skated, but Angus, basically there's this guy that lives fairly close to Robbie and I's childhood town that has a team of huskies or sled dogs that he trains during the summer by walking them all at the same time while he jogs.
Oh, bless.
And yes, he is shirtless, and yes, he has a headband on, so it's pretty perfect.
I don't remember him being shirtless, but...
I'm pretty sure he was shirtless, but granted, I saw him in like...
he alternated.
I saw him in like the asshole of July, so it's like the hottest possible time for there, so...
Yeah. So, Cindy and...
Angel,
thank you.
Jesus,
they escape the confines of the well-appointed prison.
Is anyone else surprised that Cindy can slide through those vents so easily?
I know.
Yes.
Because like Angel, like she's pretty like, you know, inside of that vent, but Cindy is like, she's like a football player with pigtails. Like,
yes. Yeah.
I'm like, how can she slide through there? I don't know. Like, granted, she's got really, really tiny waist and like huge upper body.
Yeah, she's all upper body strength, which explains how she gets up
there. Yeah.
She skips a leg day a bunch.
Yeah. And this is where we hear Mock sort of doing his villainous explanation of his plan.
In a fabulous orange jumpsuit with goggles, which I want.
Yeah. And,
I would take both.
He's like talking to his computer, who has a weird little green face that looks a lot like Darth Vader. In retrospect.
Well, it did.
True.
It was in development since '77, so it probably came off hot off the heels of that.
There you go.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Plus, Return of the Jedi would have come out that year anyway.
It would have. That's weird. It took the whole trilogy to make that film. Anyway.
Isn't that crazy?
It is weird.
When you're on low budget, it's not easy.
No.
Yep. Just look at Richard Williams.
Cobbler.
No.
Yeah, I thank you, Robbie. You and me, same wavelength, all day, every day.
And then they escape and go to a club, and
this is where it begins.
We're gonna take a minute and dig in on this.
Who wants to address the unnecessary titties first?
Oh, me.
Go on.
So it starts and they're in the club, and then all of a sudden, just tits walking towards the screen
with unnecessarily erect nipples, by the way.
Yeah, like essentially painted on clothes.
Yeah.
Walking towards you, and I was like, I am very uncomfortable right now.
I'm thinking that what they did was that this particular sequence, which goes on for roughly 4 minutes, was the only opportunity they really had to sneak in some dirty shit.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it, honestly, like, it's not inappropriate for kids. Like, I mean, you could probably show this to around like a 7 or an 8-year-old and they could understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But this is the part where it goes into like a hard PG-13 nearly R. Like, it's not super,
absolutely.
It's not like pornographic necessarily. It's just very gratuitous.
Yeah, yeah.
It is. Well, and I think it's also, again, we've talked about this a few times before, Tracy. Like, in the 70s and a little bit into the 80s, there was just this weird thing in cartoons where, like, what if we just put big tits on this thing?
Yeah.
That's really funny, right?
Yeah,
and I
guess.
think there's, like...
That's most of Ralph Bakshi's works, dude.
I know, but also, I just remember we talked about it a bunch with The Last Unicorn, because it is...
Oh god, the giant tree tits.
On
yeah.
that tree.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, those were completely unnecessary because I don't know what exactly in the spell. And actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because I just watched the Welcome to the Basement review of The Last Unicorn, and they address the tree with the big boobs, and they're just like, I'm super uncomfortable because I don't know what in the spell addressed the fact that the tree needs to have big boobs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, because aside from that, like, the club was very much what I would assume a club would be like in the late 70s, early 80s, which is a lot of drugs, no gravity, coke everywhere.
No gravity, and lots of dancing. Also, now, to be fair to them, they do have one shot of a man wearing bananas as a skirt.
Yeah,
Wait, really?
Which is
not a reasonable, not like a full banana skirt, but like 8 or 9 bananas around an entire person's waist.
I think that was either a direct reference to, it might have been either Studio 54, which was super big during the late 70s, because that was like the club that people would go to, especially because it was based in New York. But the banana skirt itself is a reference to Josephine Baker, who is a vaudeville burlesque dancer.
Yeah.
Do you remember her? Because she's like my favorite person of all time, because she's great. Well, no, because like basically she used to be a dancer, like she was from St. Louis, but because America was super, super racist and still pretty much is, but especially back during the 20s and 30s, that she emigrated and became a French citizen and was a very successful burlesque dancer there to the point that she had her own like show, and one of her signatures was wearing this banana skirt that she would dance topless in, basically. So that kind of seemed what they were going to.
Yeah, I think that's probably that homage. It's just really funny on a dude, and again, like, not enough to cover most of his body.
No.
It covered his butt crack.
You see a fair number of ass cheeks in this, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least I'm giving them credit for at least also showing some male butt cheek.
Yeah.
That's very true. I mean, Grant, we don't get anything else that's like really pornographic for dudes. Like, the most we ever get from Angel is pretty much just her side boob.
Yeah.
That's about it. Like, I mean, like, hers is very subdued.
Yeah, like the last scene is a lot of side boob from Angel.
Yeah, but aside from that, they're pretty tame with her. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the club scene, Cindy is just this beast. Like, she's just, I really do love her. I just love like how she interacted with people and her tendency to also be on roller skates, because she's super good at using them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of wish, because when she goes to the dance floor, she's dancing with this like 3-foot tall hobbit motherfucker. And I really just wish that it were swing dancing so she could throw him around.
That trend hadn't happened yet, though, Robbie. We had to wait another 10 years for that.
That would have been
swing dancing?
Oh yeah, swing dancing was huge in the 90s. Don't you remember Jump, Jive, and Wail?
Yeah, but I thought it came from before that.
No, it definitely was. It was big in like I want to say like the 30s and 40s, but it got a resurgence back in the 90s. It wasn't a thing by the early 80s, so unfortunately.
I really just wanted to see her throwing that tiny man around. That would have given me some satisfaction.
Angus, could you make that happen for us?
Yeah, sure, why not? I'll just remake the movie. That's while I'm at it.
Single-handed.
Would you be a darling and hand animate this scene?
Yeah, why not?
Of Cindy just being a beast? That'd be great.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so Angus, why don't you keep going with the plot from here? So basically, Cindy, like, they get found out by one of her brothers, and they get taken back.
Yeah.
Except Angel doesn't. Mock intervenes. So
Yeah. So from what I remember, I believe Mock takes Angel to like his like aircraft, and then they're traveling back, and they eventually reach.
Oh no, there's a thing. There's a thing first before that. Do you remember how he hired that woman named What's Her Face and then put a mask on her?
They gave her a name, did they?
No, they called her What's Her Face. Like that. Oh. I don't know if she actually has a name, but like, that
you mean
the
like
name that he keeps addressing her as? Do you remember like where? Because Omar is at the club.
Oh yeah,
with
so
Dizzy
okay, I remember this part. So Omar, he exits the club. Thinks he sees Angel. Starts running after her. It's all misty and stuff, and eventually he finds Mock. Mock is with Angel, and it looks like they're now doing the whole record thing, and that Angel is really into Mock.
Yes.
So gross.
What's his name? Sorry, I keep forgetting his name.
Omar. It's because he's so. It's because he's so forgettable.
I have to look. Yeah, that's the thing. I have to remember his name. Sorry.
Also, there's a point where one of the characters, when they're trying to get into the city, keeps calling him Oscar.
Yeah.
What? Really?
Yep.
Oh, I completely just.
There's a scene where someone calls him Oscar because I was like flipping out. I was like, I thought his name was Omar. Why are you calling him Oscar?
Yeah. Anyway, so
what's going on?
So Omar gets pissed off because he thinks that's it for him, and so he goes. I believe he just like runs away, and then it turns
like a
out
little bitch.
Like pretty much. And then Angel, it turns out wasn't Angel, it was just someone wearing a mask. And then we cut back to seeing Angel and Mock, and Angel's pretty much saying, no, I don't want to sing, I don't want to summon this devil thing. But then he's kidnapped Omar and the other people in the gang, and they're trying to like electrocute and torture them. So she says, fine, I'll do it. And then we pretty much come to the final part.
Yeah,
well, like,
and there's
they get manipulated.
They're essentially brainwashed, I think,
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
So then they're all like, dazed and always like overly happy and stuff. They get sent back home by a truck or bus kind of thing, and the whole time, they get sent all the way back home, and they're like performing at the nightclub they were originally performing at. Well, not nightclub.
I think they were called Omar and the Daycares or something.
Yeah.
They're like the super relaxed hippie band.
Yeah.
Honestly, they sound better than they used to.
They sound better there
because I much prefer that.
It's kind of ironic. I like it.
It is. And so while that's happening, what's his face? Mock is taking back Angel to, make this grand return concert.
So is it?
Yeah.
I think it's here when we have this scene on the airship that I just wanted to like pause on for a minute.
Oh,
yeah, go on.
God, yeah, let's do.
So you've got a couple things happen in this scene.
Yeah.
Like, one of his minions is watching a show called Uncle Mikey, Good or Evil.
Yep.
Which is like...
I loved his voice. Hello, boys and girls. I'm Uncle Mikey.
Is this good or evil? And it's like a man shoots a cat and a cow.
And then he's feeding a flower.
Yeah.
Like, is this good or evil?
Yeah, and it's like this goofy thing. And like, while he's doing that, you see Mock with the biggest fucking joint. I think absolutely destroyed.
Doesn't he do a line of cocaine before he smokes it? I could have sworn that he was.
But
it looks like he did because his eyes dilate and shit, and I'm like, oh, he's got blue eyes, neat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, his eyes like change into rainbows and shit, and he's like,
it's great.
Here's the thing: good and evil don't really exist. Black and
moral relativism is the way of the 80s.
Yeah. It's just like, and he's like talking really slow. It's super weird. So high.
I feel really, really bad for the brother though, because he's like, "But is what we're doing good or evil? Like, are we evil?" And I'm like, I genuinely feel bad for him.
I know.
It's that moment. It's that joke moment in Street Fighter. Wait a minute. Are we the bad guys? Of course we're the bad guys.
I feel bad for him though. He throws out his doll.
I know.
I do actually feel kind of bad for him.
And he's like crying. I'm like, don't do that.
No.
Like,
he
this
redeems
is something
himself.
that I would be super bummed out if someone threw my stuff out like that, especially if it was like my favorite show. I'd be like, oh, it is on.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
I'm much larger than you, and I will crush you.
Oh yes.
I think once again, this should have been one of those things they should have had more scenes of this. If they made Uncle Mikey a reoccurring show that those guys would watch, and
Yeah.
It would be this kind of like, it would be one of those things where it's like, it will foreshadow stuff, for sure.
Yeah, like a recurring motif or something.
Yeah, but because it's one of those things where, because it happens so late, you don't really think about it until then, and you think, oh, that should have happened earlier. And that's one of my problems with this film, is there's so many scenes I just kind of forget about. And I mean, even earlier when I was trying to explain stuff, there were just scenes where it's like, something happened there, but I wasn't sure if it happened. If they had more Uncle Mikey scenes, like, I don't know, spread throughout, then it would kind of make me think, all right, here's checkpoint 1, here's checkpoint 2 of the film, and all that kind of stuff.
I think this is another one of those things that, like Tracy was saying, because they didn't sit down and produce a script beforehand, and so there's probably certainly a point at which they're, like, trying to scramble in the production, like, all right, how do we wrap this thing up?
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that was probably one of those instances.
Yeah.
Angus, going along with your point, what I would have liked to see was kind of like how you were mentioning, if they incorporated Uncle Mikey throughout the rest of it. I think it would have been a little bit more satisfying if they had separate instances of like where, say like the youngest brother was watching Uncle Mikey, and then there would be an action that they were doing that seemed like as the opposite of what Uncle Mikey was teaching. Gradually, it's more about how Mock has been gaslighting him this whole time, and then he gradually realizes that that's what's going on and that they're supposed to be the bad guys, but he's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, I think that would have made more sense, because like just having him cry because Mock is heartless enough to throw out his toy, I guess kind of works, but it would have been...
It would have been a much more sort of like satisfying experience.
True.
Because it would have made the characters of the three brothers a lot more about how not only are they supposed to be his servants, but it would make them more into characters than just like certain stereotypes where they're essentially just like the Three Stooges, more or less, but they happen to be his butlers.
There's very much that these, like, and this, children, is why we revise our drafts.
Yeah.
But
yes.
Sorry, I tried to get that teacher moment in there.
Go ahead.
But I think that's certainly one of the things in this movie is, like, for the most part, these characters are very sort of like broad stroke archetypes.
Like very black and white in terms of their portrayals.
Yeah, I think for the most part. Ironically, I think it's probably Angel and Cindy who are the most rounded in terms of character.
I agree.
Which is really weird.
We get like 7 minutes of screen time from Cindy.
That's what I mean. Like, there's very little Cindy, and yet she is a much more sort of rounded and interesting character than Omar, who's there the entire film and may as well be shitting on the toilet the entire time.
Pretty much.
I mean, like, and this is especially apparent during the finale, which we'll get to in a second. But I really
want to get into as well.
Absolutely, we're going to.
Yeah.
But there's one other thing that I want to address because I found it super, super creepy.
Oh, what?
When Angel and Mock are in the airship and Angel is on, like, she's basically sitting at the piano bench, very sadly playing the keys. Then Mock comes in and does his grand introduction, describing like how everything will end tomorrow. We'll have this fantastic concert and da-da-da-da-da. And she very ham-fistedly attempts to seduce him, but it's very transparent that that's what's going on. And it's super gross because Mock is like this, like she's probably turning about 115, but like he's got like a six-pack or whatever. And I'm like, this is super gross because he's obviously very old, and his face, like, I just want to touch it because it looks like it's soft, but also it's very gross. And I'm just like, oh, this is gross. She's like, oh, let's run away together. And he's like, let's go to Fiji or Disneyland or Fantasy Island or something.
It's weird to hear them say Disneyland in a non-Disney film,
Yeah, I'm sure that they're just like poking fun or something, because like the idea of Mock being at Disney World is kind of hilarious to me. Like him wearing mouse ears going on Space Mountain, like, oh, it was wonderful. We got a Dole Whip and then we went onto the carousel and the teacups. I've never felt so alive, Angel.
I just want to point out, Tracy, you sound like you were doing a Ronald Reagan impression just now.
I'm sorry. I can do a Ronald Reagan.
Hey,
well,
I would love it. Well, Patty,
well,
it's just the well. Then you say something weird.
I mean,
well, well, Mickey Mouse, we talked quite a bit. Sir, Mickey Mouse isn't real.
Well, if you think about it, Gorbachev, Star Wars is the most unifying force we have in our military. Jesus Christ, I forgot that he
Lord.
he called his military strike Star Wars. I'm like, go fuck yourself, Reagan.
Habitually forget about Star Wars in that way. That's so good.
I know. I was like, way to try to get some brand name recognition
Just
there, Reagan.
softball it out there, Reagan. It's fine.
I'm not sure what any of this
He's
is.
dead now.
Oh, it's a whole mess.
He was like a very long-term president in the 80s who's dead now.
Okay.
He was the guy behind trickle-down economics, which is basically what caused the economic recession
Right.
in 2008 in America. So like that's not, I mean, well, not necessarily, but some of the principles happen to carry over with it. So
He's one of the big reasons why college costs so much in the United States at this point.
yeah. We don't have to get hyper political, but long story short,
that's fine.
Yeah. Like honestly, I don't know if we want
I don't want to talk. I think
we're not going to spread hate right now. Like basically, we've got our opinions of Reagan, and they're not great.
They're not positive. So if you like Reagan, sorry.
Because
really.
even though we had rapid economic growth, we also had our highest rates of homelessness in the 80s. Anyway,
yeah, there's a lot to be said about Reagan.
They're directly correlated. Anyway,
anywho, so Rock and Rule. There's this
is a movie.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
While they're like setting up this massive concert. And it's going on, and she's summoning the demon, which of course she does.
And she's been drugged, we should note. Drugged and locked up on the stage. Mock comes out in his giant flying ship that looks kind of like a manta ray, which I'm super into. Because he's doing that like drum thing that the Blue Man Group does, which I thought was neat.
Yeah, he's doing some weird like drumming keyboard thing up there.
It's all pipes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so while that's happening, the lights start blowing out throughout the city.
Because he's maxing out the power grid.
Yeah, and so
would.
Yeah, and one of them breaks and shocks the boys back into reality.
Pretty much.
And we get this amazing line from Stretch, which is, Oma, I had this crazy dream that you were a nice guy. And I was like, shots fired. Get him to the burn ward.
Yeah.
He is not wrong, though.
He is awful. I hate Omar. And then that's when they
this is like just like the Omar like shade casting cast.
It's like an hour of us just bashing the movie's main character.
I mean, like honestly, if he was here, like if we were at like a family reunion, I would just like talk so much shit about Omar.
Right.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they made this character Omar like deliberately hateable, but then why would you do that with your main character? It just, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, and then during the finale, what they try to do with him, I'm like, no, this is not earned. No one likes him.
This should have been someone else doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Like,
yeah, again, I think like you know what would have like to sort of steal from Tracy's mention earlier.
Yep.
What would have been the really impressive sort of like phantom thread, if you will, would be to have Dizzy be the one who pops up and does it at the end.
Yeah, I would have loved that. It would have been so earned. Would have been great.
Yeah,
like,
because like you know, for all that this movie definitely needed some intense scriptural revision.
Yeah. Or any script.
Yeah, or you know, a script. Just one.
Yeah.
Just one cohesive script. I think that as it exists, Dizzy would work as a fun sort of subversion character to do that with. Now, we're not going to get that in 1983. That might happen today.
We need to have our stereotypical, vaguely attractive, red-haired furry man doing it.
Listen,
right, man.
Omar were
that old chestnut.
If he were half as cool as his design, he might almost be likable.
Almost, yeah.
But no. But your boy Dizzy, in another future, like nowadays, we could make that happen.
Oh, yeah.
So where were we at on the ending sort of scene? Like...
So I would say like the chase scene because they're driving over there from what is it? From the venue. And Mylar is hosting the concert that Mock is playing at. So Dizzy and Stretch are in the. I think that they steal another police car.
They steal another police car from the same policeman.
Good.
Somehow.
Excellent.
Like this guy just sucks. How is he still a cop? He's lost 2 cop cars now.
Yeah.
Well, you see, he was on probation after the first one, and now he's probably fired.
Definitely. But anyway, so I guess I should actually I should say with this part of the film, this is actually the first part of the film I saw, which was the actual ending.
Really?
Okay, I'll go back a bit and try to explain. So basically, I first saw this film about 2 years ago, and I was on YouTube just looking for random, quote-unquote adult animated films, Ralph Bashki and all that stuff. And I just saw this one, and it was like the ending scene. I was like, all right, what's this? And it's, the first thing I see is a sort of this Satan creature being summoned and then sung to. You know, like they. Okay, well. Okay, so what happens in this scene is, you know, all the characters come in, even Omar, despite not being in the same car as, you know, the two guys. He just shows up and starts screaming. And I'm like, how the hell did you get here so fast without a car? You know,
I was asking the same thing. I'm like, how the fuck did he even get here? They just never address it.
They never address it. It's like, oh, well, that's the film. But anyway, so, you know, he comes down, he rescues Angel from the clutches, but by that point, she has sung the sacred song to summon Satan. And so he's come up, he's starting to eat people and, like, cause all havoc and all that. Mock is just having an orgasm over it and just being completely...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's great.
He is such the best time possible.
He's just squeeing. Like, I love the way that he has, like, his legs. Like, it's very femme, and he's just like, just like writhing. He just loves it so much.
He is...
It's still pretty gross.
I know. But, you know, so he's super into it, but then he gets really upset. He gets really upset because Angel says, if I could sing it up, I could sing it back. And then she goes up to this Satan creature, almost gets killed, but she starts singing to it, and then Omar comes in, sings along with them. And this part is, like, really, I don't know, despite my not liking of Omar, like, this is a really good song, not really because of Omar, because of Angel.
Yes.
But they have, like, a really fantastic sort of, like, duo song. And the song is what, you know, sends him back. Mock gets really panicky and tries to, you know, no, please don't go and all that. Like, I don't know, it just seems a bit weird being
trying
Satan.
to, like, to resurrect the beast back again to, like, keep it doing its mission.
Do we mention how the one brother dies?
I can mention that.
We didn't talk about that.
Yeah. So I think it's when Omar, like, comes up and the demon is going to, like, I don't know, just beam him with demon energy or something.
Yeah.
And the brother who was watching Uncle Mikey jumps in the way and, you know, dies.
Yeah.
Because demon energy.
He doesn't do the whole, like, the jumping, no! But he may as well have, because
he
essentially
essentially
the same
did.
thing.
He did in spirit.
He did.
And so then his brother's like, why'd you do it?
I did it for Uncle Mikey.
And then I have to say, this was, I mean, it's meant to be tragic, but again, this movie hasn't built to this moment being serious.
No.
So you see one of his roller skates spinning, and it just slowly stops.
Oh god,
It stops
wonderful.
And it
just
so,
stops
like,
moving, and then he's like, the rage building up in his brother. He's like, you caused him to feel pain.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, and I'll say this, like, in the overall feeling of the scene, like the fact that, like, Angel number one has to resurrect this beast and then send it back through the power of rock.
I know.
I love that trope. It's like, we have to use music and band together to fight it. Like, I just love that so much because it's so hokey, but, like, it's so fun. I love it.
Like, it's so silly, but at the same time, that was a scene I would watch over and over. Like, sometimes I'm just, like, listening to the music and just watching that scene, and I'm just like, I know, it's one of those things I really can't get enough of. I won't watch it around other people because they'll be wondering, Angus, what the fuck are you watching? Like,
what's this furry shit you're watching?
Yeah, it's like, what is this? But, yeah.
No, yeah, that ending number is, like, really impressive.
It is.
Honestly, I like the entire ending concert bit because, like, it's not super exciting. It's just, like, the way that it's paced out and the way that how they space all the different action and everything works. Plus, I actually really like the song that Mock starts playing, and I'm like, I kind of see why he's a superstar.
Yeah.
Because this is pretty cool. Like, it's kind of like this weird, I mean, like, the use of percussion and everything and, like, the vocals and everything that Angel supplies are pretty good.
Yes.
I could totally see myself going to that concert.
Yeah.
Not knowing what a bastard he is, but I would go for the costumes
Not
alone.
knowing you're gonna be eaten by a demon.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm kind of behind anyone that has a floating percussion machine.
Yeah.
Once that becomes more commonplace, I'll probably become, immune to it. But now, I'm fine with it.
Like, I'll say the overall aesthetic of that last scene with what you were saying, the floating music machine thing he has, like, it's one of those things I look at and I think, I want to steal that idea.
Absolutely.
I think, no one gives a shit about this movie, so I'm just gonna, like, you'll probably see, like, 10 years' time, I'll just rip off that entire scene, just because
honestly, I'm sure that there are a lot of features now that play homage to that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like, for whatever stories issues this movie does have in that it does jump around a lot, the sense of style and the backgrounds are gorgeous.
I know.
I
Oh,
yeah,
love
no,
the backgrounds in this. Like, especially the winding road when they're going to Mock's place. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Visually, this is a fantastic movie.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I looked up a little bit more trivia about it, where apparently the clouds that they used for that scene when they're the driving montage, like where they're going out to Mock's place, that those were actually cotton balls that they put under plates of glass, like in a multi-plane camera. Because here's the thing, the thing is that they tried doing it with airbrushing, you know, like just trying to make cloud textures, but I guess it wasn't showing through properly, so they just had it lit so that the cotton would still be fairly transparent, so you could see the rest of the ground as they were shooting it. I'm like, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Like, and it worked pretty well. I thought it looked great. They even have a couple of live action cuts into this, or at least like some of the transitions, like some explosions are clearly done in live action.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look that hokey. It's just obviously live action. So
Yeah.
But yeah. I like that it ends with a rainbow.
It ends with a rainbow of all imagery to end
It's
off.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
Pride
And
Month.
it's like finally there's light back in ohmTown, which I'm just like, no, man, ohmTown's still a bit of a shithole.
It's still gonna be shit.
I don't know where this is coming from.
I don't know why Mock being thrown to a demon is
It solves all your
brings
problems.
back the
Yeah, I mean, like,
sun.
there's still clearly corruption and, like, a homeless population and crime and everything in ohmTown. It's like, it doesn't suddenly become Care-a-Lot as soon as Mock is gone.
Yeah,
It's not the same thing.
pretty much.
Oh, God.
Which,
But overall,
yeah.
I genuinely really like this movie. I was kind of surprised because there were the pacing wasn't too bad. Some of the songs are definitely better than others because oddly enough, Mock's song that he had didn't do it for me.
Aye.
Which one? I Am Mock?
Yeah, his name is Mock. That's not a lot.
Yeah,
like, whatever
yeah.
it was, like where he's got
Yeah,
like the
that was
girls
a
pointing
little
in
rough.
silhouette. I mean, it wasn't about it being self-indulgent. It just wasn't a good song.
No.
Angel stuff is good. The stuff in the dance club is good. Omar's is kind of annoying, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not my jam.
You could ignore him.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like, as much as we shit on Omar, he absolutely deserves it, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's not undeserved.
Pretty
No.
much. So I think with me, obviously, like I say, the first time I was exposed to the term was the ending. And if you have to watch any part of this film, literally just watch the ending, because that's, like, the best bit. It just has this, it's this sudden, like, witnessing of just, like, what the hell's going on, but at the same time, it's so awesome. And it kind of just feels like they had the rights to some of these songs, and they just wanted an excuse to make a movie. And, you know, it's just like, it's impressive for what it does, and it's really impressive considering the year was made. But at the same time, there's so much stuff they should have sorted out way before they started filming. All of it,
That's
pretty
true.
much.
I mean, and honestly, like, for being the first feature that they've ever made,
Yeah, in Canada.
they could have done a lot worse.
They could have done a lot worse. And it's good that it's an interesting film rather than just one that's like, oh, okay, that was, you know, forgettable. You know, this one is far from, forgettable in terms of
No, I definitely.
I was
everything that
never
goes
bored
on
during it.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not boring. It takes its time sometimes, but it's never boring. Which is nice.
pretty much.
Robro?
Oh, I mean, I think it definitely, for me, I think that lack of a script is probably the biggest thing. I can easily see how you can take the existing sort of structure of the film,
Yeah.
and if you were to actually, like, you know, put that into a script and then spend some time revising it, like you said earlier, Tracy, incorporating the Uncle Mikey scenes a bit more,
Yeah.
maybe make Omar even passably, you know, tolerable.
We really just bring him up like he's just like our whipping boy within this movie, but
He
like
is
they could
I
have
mean-
made him good. Like they could have made him not a dick, where like the fact that he's dating Angel is just like, why is she dating him? I
Yeah.
would never date someone who is as shitty to me as he is to her.
Yeah.
He's jealous, he's possessive, he doesn't want to work for what he wants.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it's like what is aspirational about that? I don't understand what his appeal is.
I don't know. Like, I agree with you. I think there's a way you can do sort of like the jerk with a heart of gold. I'm not a fan of it, but like,
No, but it can be
It's-
done decently. Like he doesn't have to
Absolutely.
be a complete jerk ass. Like,
Yeah.
he has to earn what he's getting. And the fact that he just shows up at the end of it is so inconsequential. Like, it would be one thing if we see a montage of him trying to get there too, but they only put the focus on Dizzy and Stretch. So they, even within the movie, they just address the fact that Omar is essentially not relevant.
Yeah, like, I think that, like, we kind of said earlier that he's the main character, but I think really the main character is probably Mock or Angel.
Yeah.
It's kind of both of them.
Absolutely.
Like, it's really Angel's story, honestly.
Angel is probably in reality the protagonist, and Mock is absolutely the antagonist of this
Yeah,
film.
yeah.
And Omar is just sort of like almost a deuteragonist, right? Like, he's not really a
Yeah.
protagonist character, and he's almost like a side character, especially because, again, like, Angel, despite being kidnapped and despite, you know, having several chunks where she's just absent because she was kidnapped, is much more compelling than he is.
In a much worse written movie, it would be if they had tried to paint Angel as like the stereotypical damsel in distress and that Omar is the one that has to come save her, I would
it'd be
hate this
so
movie.
shitty.
Because like, and here's the thing, because Angel is a strong enough character on her own that it's showcased that she can mostly kind of take care of herself and kind of save herself. Like, it's just once she's actually being chained up by the end of the movie where she's just like, I don't know what else to do. And then they're like, well, we have to give Omar something to do. It's been 45 minutes, so we're just going to throw him in here.
Pretty
In
much.
45 minutes, he spent 30 of them high.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, but he spends less time moving the plot forward than Dizzy or Stretch combined. And that's a really big writing issue. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's like if you want a really quality villain, definitely watch this film because Mock is like
Mock is entertaining.
yeah, he's entertaining. He's hypnotic to watch because he's super gross. But I couldn't look away from him, and I'm sure that was
so
deliberate.
much face to work with, right?
Oh yeah, like they went to town with like giving him anytime when he was talking or which is most of the movie, or like smoking or doing something. It's so fun to watch him.
I think I've mentioned this before. Like, one of my favorite things is when talking about the pilot of Steven Universe versus the actual show.
Okay.
One of the things Rebecca Universe, like, someone asked her about
Rebecca
Pearl's design.
Sugar.
Rebecca Sugar.
Sugar.
My bad. I know I said Rebecca Universe.
It's okay. We forgive you.
Because her brother is Steven Sugar, and Steven Universe is based on him. It's a whole thing.
It's okay, darling. You got it.
Someone asked her, like, why did Pearl's design change? And she's like, I wanted more out of the face, specifically.
Okay.
I mean, she got it.
Yeah, which she got it. And I think that is 1,000% of Mock. Is just, I want more out of the face. All right, here's more face than we know what to do with. We have slapped pancakes on pancakes on pancakes and turned it into a man's face.
Yeah.
Any other closing thoughts? Like, also, if you have the ability to watch this when you're drunk or high, please do so. You can watch it sober, but scenes of it will be a lot more fun when you're drunk or high.
Yeah, I feel like I would have enjoyed this movie much more in a different state of mind.
Does this mean you're going to end up watching it later?
It might. Overall, it's pretty good. I think if you're like me and you're not a fan of that particular sort of chunk of sort of classic rock and metal or whatever you want to call this music, you might have a bit of a difficult time.
Yeah, I mean, like, the music isn't necessarily bad, but it's definitely of its time.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's just plain and simple not my jam, right? Like,
oh, that's cute. You made a joke. Not my jam. Not my jam.
Jam buds?
Jam buds? No, like music jam. Jam band?
Oh, yeah, no, I get what you're going for. It wasn't intentional.
It's okay. I mean, honestly, I found a couple parallels between this and American Pop, which we had previously reviewed. Angus, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but...
No, I haven't knew it.
Oh, okay. We'll explain the plot briefly for that one. It's basically this generational story that's chronicling the progression of American pop music, essentially from the 1920s to the early 80s. Okay. And it follows this one family that are all musical. So, like, it follows people from
a family of Russian Jewish immigrants.
Yes, and it's very good because honestly, the thing that I liked best about that movie is the fact that Ralph Bakshi, the animator, he rotoscoped the whole film, or like with his team. But the way that he was able to get the music was because bands that he asked were fans of his other work, and they're like, "Oh, absolutely, you can totally use our music." Like, he literally just he called in favors from them. They're just like, "Hey, Jefferson Airplane, can I use Want Somebody to Love?" And they're just like, "Oh, absolutely, we loved Fritz the Cat." Like,
that's how you get around.
Exactly.
That's basically how Steven Spielberg got the property rights to do
Roger Rabbit,
and also this recent one.
Ready Player One.
Yeah, he literally just called people and was like, hey, would you be cool if I use this in your movie?
And they just said
were
yes.
Like, yes, you're Steven Spielberg.
You made Hook and 1941. Absolutely, you can. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Honestly, I didn't mind the music in this, but I really like that kind of genre of music. Well, kind of. I don't really like Cheap Trick that much, but like once I heard Earth, Wind, and Fire and some of Debbie Harry, I'm like, this is fine. Like, it was okay. It's not the kind of stuff I'll seek out constantly, but as a time capsule of when it was made, I think it works fine.
Like, what I find interesting, like going back, because like with the music, it's interesting because the best song in the film, the ending one, like... when they have the earlier version of it, that was released on cassette and stuff, released on albums as a B-side. But
I think Debbie Harry released it on like a 1988 album, I think.
Yeah, but what's a bit tragic is actually they were actually planning to release a soundtrack, but because of certain issues and whatnot, they didn't, and all the original files were lost. So,
that's a shame.
And it's a real shame because I love that ending song, but you know what happens during the ending? People talk over it. So the only way to get a version of the ending song without any kind of voice and stuff is weird, like, edits on YouTube, where somehow people have been able to edit out the voices of other people. It's a bit weird. They're kind of ghosted out, so you can still hear people kind of talking if you listen to it, like, really closely.
Yeah, like they'll find a section of the song that repeats and then try to hastily edit it so that it is supposed to flow a little bit better, but you can still hear the voices.
Pretty much, and it's just like, it makes me realize there's a lot of films or older films where that would happen. They would have a soundtrack, but they would never release it. That happened with Appleseed, that happened with the Sonic OVA, for instance. Like, there's songs in there, the only way to recover them is to do that, but... It's a shame because that would have been something that could have like sold the movie in a way. Because like this is one of those like box office bombs where
Oh yeah.
I really didn't do well. I think it was produced for like $40 million, but it didn't really make all that much back at all.
I think it was only $8 million, but still, like they only made like 20,000 back, and that's like nothing.
Yeah,
compared to that budget.
That's dismal.
Yeah. In fact, I think the reason I read...
Oh, yeah, here we go. Is it made for $8 million. It made $30,000.
$30,000. And the reason why, from what I've heard, was basically near the end production, they swapped companies, or at least they were bought out by... They was bought out by MGM, and the higher-ups weren't as interested when they saw the film. Like, they were just like... The previous people who saw it were interested, but these guys were just like, can you edit it a bit? And then this is why... This gets into another thing. They edited the film to be somewhat more sellable, as in, like, try to make it a bit more PG, cut out this part here and there.
Sure.
It's funny because even when you see the film, it's still adult. So it's like, they really probably they couldn't really work with much. Yeah. And so... When MGM saw this film, the final cut, they were just like, we still don't like it. So they didn't show it in America, except for maybe a few small cinemas.
Yeah, I think it mentioned a couple theaters in Boston.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Like mostly, the most people were able to see it was on like Canadian TV, and it's just like, well, that's how it got its cult following. Because it's funny, bootleg copies of the film existed, but they accidentally credited the main author as Ralph Bakshi. Which is funny. In a way, it's just like, oh shit. This film just, it just had it rough, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well.
That's a shame. I mean, especially just because, what I'm seeing right now is that apparently it was released on a 2-disc edition DVD.
Oh yeah, it got a wider release later. Yeah.
Yeah, much later, like after it kind of got the cult following. But like, it's a real shame that this really does deserve a bit more fanfare. Like, it's not a perfect movie, but it's definitely worth seeing.
Yeah.
Like at least what it's trying to do, I still think is pretty interesting.
Absolutely,
so, especially as like being a launching point for some voice actors too, especially like very famous in the 80s as well.
I think this is a film that if you're listening to this right now, you should definitely just check it out. I mean, it's freely on YouTube by the original director.
Nice.
I kind of love it when directors do that too, though.
Yeah.
I forget what was the other. I don't know if it was Ralph Bakshi or someone else, but. They had put like one of them. I think it was the person that made Feliday. Is that they? I think that they released it on YouTube for free, and I really like it when people do that. Nina Paley also did that for Sita Sings the Blues, but granted, that's a Creative Commons movie as well.
Yeah, it's a whole different sort of jam.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, I mean, this movie is good. I liked it. I actually really I really liked it a lot. I mean, honestly, I watched it twice in 24 hours.
There a little bit.
It's all right. It'll do.
No.
Joking.
Because no, it's fine. I'm sorry to sound so hesitant because I genuinely really like this movie a lot.
Yeah.
I watched it twice within 24 hours. If that tells you anything.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
not just because we were reviewing it, because like there were certain scenes I honestly, because I was multitasking when the ending was happening, I genuinely didn't remember what was going on, so I had to rewatch it to figure out what was happening.
Oh, okay.
Because the entire climax happens within like 5 minutes.
No,
True
yeah, it's
enough.
like a
Like,
10-minute
you
climax.
would think that it would,
Yeah.
and I know where
Very
it's like
short.
it's like you would think that it would, that there would be more time and everything, but the entire progression for the monster, he's only on screen for like less than 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, otherwise, I would highly recommend checking this out if you can find it. Like, and honestly, our commentaries or our podcast right now is going to be roughly the same length as the movie. So.
Yeah.
Oh, pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah, highly recommend from everybody, I guess, or at least definitely recommend.
Go watch it now.
I'd recommend it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely worth your time, and it's on YouTube for free. I
Yep.
watched half of it at the gym, and then I watched half of it on my TV at home.
Oh, nice.
So the first
I
time,
watched
and
it
then
this
I'm just
morning.
like, this
Yeah.
needs all my attention. So
Neat.
thank you so much for joining us, Angus. This is another great recommendation.
Thank
Do you
you.
have anything else you'd like to plug, or places where people can find you online?
If you want to find me on Twitter, just search Angus_Beer and check out my YouTube channel. Just type in Angus Beer and you'll hopefully find it. I make animations, games, art, all kinds of stuff. Those are the places I'm most active. So, yeah.
Did you put up the Spirit Bakery short on
Spirit
your
Bakery.
YouTube as well? 'Cause
Yes,
I'm highly recommending people check that out because it is adorable.
Yes.
And actually, we should also give you a little bit of applause too, because that is an award-winning short that
Yep.
you had made, which I am super, super happy about because you totally deserve it because it's adorable.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm really proud of
very
that
cool.
one. Yeah.
you should be. It's great.
Yeah.
But how about you, Robbie? Where can they find you?
Oh, as always, I am lobster_writer on Twitter. Tracy, where do they find you?
Thank you, Robbie. They can find me on Twitter at TCTroush and also on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, boy.
All right.
Yeah, buddy. But yeah, rock and roll is pretty great. Thanks again for
Crap.
listening, everybody.
I've-
What?
I have
What'd you
one
do?
more joke
What?
about
What?
rock
Go-
and roll.
Go on
That
then.
was literally my first impression, which was, this is like the Goofy movie's acid-driven ancestor.
Yes, boy.
And that's
Yeah.
what I meant. And that's where
Yeah.
I stand on this movie.
Right on. Okay, I thought you were gonna incorporate a Rock-a-Doodle reference. Rock and roll, more like Rock-a-Doodle.
I do love Rockadoodle.
You really love Rock-a-Doodle. I don't understand why. Angus, what's your stance on Rock-a-Doodle? Because Robbie and I have had this as a point of contention for a while now.
I'm sorry.
We gotta bury this hatchet, so you have to solve our fight for us.
I'm sorry.
This hatchet will never be buried.
I'm sorry. I've only watched it through the Nostalgia Critic review ages back, so
Oh, jeez. Okay.
whatever works.
It is on YouTube. I will say that much,
It's a
but
thing.
I
All
don't
right,
like it.
All right, look,
I'm
I'll tell you what. I'll watch it just for you guys. I can make a judgment from there.
Thanks, buddy. All right, cool. All right, then
All right.
If you recommend us one for us, then we'll recommend one for you. So
Yeah, shopping.
It's a deal.
It's a deal.
all right, thanks
We
again,
will
everybody.
Catch you guys later.
We'll
See you
talk
around.
at you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks again so much for listening. Our intro music is Don't Hold My Breath by Ben Briggs. The outro is Wet Dreams by Phonetic Hero. Both were found on ocremix.org. If you like the show, please subscribe, rate, and review us, or tell a friend to check us out. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Find the show website via notjoannaeggs.tumblr.com. Follow us on Twitter via @lobster_writer and @TCTroush. Not Joanna Eggs, because animation is for everybody.
You had me a gay vampire.